PSG won, Arsenal won 4-3 on penalties. 20 years for us to get to a Champions League final and for it to be decided by Gabriel's penalty going over the bar. I'm gutted, you're gutted. Let's not pretend otherwise. It's a blow. It's going to hurt. Now, I've gone through, watching the game again, looking at the stats. And I want to tell you what happened in that game. What Arsenal should be proud of and what history shows that they can do from now. Okay, so let's not hide from it. This was a heavy defeat masked by a 1-0 as a narrow one. 75% of the ball, 21 shots to 7, an expected goal figure of 1.7 to 0.51, which those aren't the numbers of a team that was, you could say that unlucky to lose. They are the numbers of a team that was second best and got to penalties anyway. But before anything else, credit to PSG. Back-to-back European champions. It's not easy to do. On the night, they just had that one more thing that got them over the line. So there's no bitterness here. And they earned it. But saying that, though, it doesn't make the Arsenal defeat hurt any less. It makes being honest about it even matter even more. So when you lose, nobody talks about defending. So let me. PSG had 75% of the ball, 21 shots, 42 touches in Arsenal's box. And across 120 minutes, they scored once from a penalty. So not a single goal in open play against the most, you could say, PSG are the most lethal attack in Europe. Scored the most goal in the Champions League this season. Saliba, Gabriel, Raya didn't really have a save to make that matters, including the one in the shootout. He made 3 saves. This was a back to the wall, throw your body in front. It was resolute defending. And let's be clear, Arsenal conceded possession to PSG quite willingly because that was also part of their game plan. And defensive solidity should be credited no matter the outcome. And it's harder to do when the result doesn't go your way. But I think that it has to be said, right? To keep PSG in this game the way that Arsenal did has to be enormous. It has to be enormous. Gabriel was immense. He was immense in this game for 120 minutes. The penalty does not erase the game that he had. And anyone going after him, should just discontinue the conversation because, we're not going to do that here. I thought he was man of the match in this game, and rightfully so as well. Okay, let's talk about the game, the conversation everybody wants, right? Let's talk about the subs, and I want to walk through them in order because there are 2 very different decisions here, and I think they are important as we kind of look back at this game and figure out what went wrong, what Arsenal could do, and all of that. So 66 minute. 2 changes. Timber comes in for Mosquera at right back. Fresh legs against Kvaratskhelia. And Gyökeres comes on for Ødegaard. Now, I think that those 2 substitutions are really, really important, for us to look at. And if you look at the game that Ødegaard was having before then, 1 key pass, 6 passes out of 7 completed. That was tidy. But not really enough. And I think, you look at his progressive carries as well. He had none. And he had 15 meters of carrying the ball, total. And that's not the Ødegaard that would run the game. And I think, Mikel Arteta would have thought that there will be a lot more coming, from Ødegaard. So taking him off to bring in Gyökeres, for the win in normal time. I can defend that. I can defend that substitution. It is brave and is the right kind of brave, for a Champions League final. I don't think, people who are, going out and talking about Arsenal were ultra defensive. I don't think you make those substitutions and then you call those defensive substitutions. Those were attacking substitutions, substitutions with intent. Now, the next one, I want to talk about, because I think this one, has some questions, right? So start of extra time, 91 minutes, Kai Havertz comes off. He's your goal scorer. He was the one that gave you the lead. And to be fair, he was playing decent, then. I get it, 91 minutes, you're thinking about fresh legs, but, he comes off for Eberechi Eze. And this is the thing that, breaks your heart. And I'm sure Mikel Arteta is going to be going back on this decision, because as it turned out, Havertz could have been on the pitch, for the penalty, but Eze was. And Eze, stepped up, and he missed the penalty. So I'm not killing Arteta for this. I'm not killing, the substitution, but I'm just looking at it and saying, these are the decisions that, they go for you in a final, you're a hero. They don't go for you, and then it looks bad. You're second guessing yourself. And that will be all part of the reflection, as Arsenal look at how they move on, from here. And I think that's the one, substitution, because of how things played out, not even the Ødegaard one, that, everyone can look at. But this isn't the real reason that Arsenal lost. The real reason is a bigger number. Because the deeper truth is this: when PSG's press came, Arsenal couldn't keep the ball, and carry it through the pitch. We saw Miles Lewis-Skelly carry the ball, one of the times, and, he really moved with the ball and then gave a great pass, to the right-hand side. And, 285 passes, in total, and 25%, in the ball. I don't think any substitution really fixes that. I think it was, exactly the way that we wanted to play. And for me, I think that's more of a squad build thing. That's more of, do you have the resources, to change the game from one mode, to the other. And I think that's, that's the real reason there. I think that it comes down to the players that we have, how suited are they, for the sort of game that requires you to change the way that you play, in one part of the game and another. And that's always difficult. I think that's always difficult as well. So losing a final, isn't the end, of the story. It's really a fork in the road. And history does show two very different, paths. And Arsenal has to choose which one they take. The first road, you lose and then you conquer. And then you look at Liverpool 2018 to 2019, hammered by Real Madrid in the final, kept the spine. They signed Alisson and Fabinho to fix the exact weakness that was exposed during the final. Came back the next year and won it. AC Milan 1993 to 1994, lost the final in 93. Returned the very next season and beat Barcelona 4-0. So there is a path there. There's another path, which is one that is not great reading. And that's, Tottenham 2019, reached the final. Next season, didn't even get past the last 16 and has fallen off, from Champions League since then. And then you've got Atletico Madrid, as well, 2014, 2016, two finals they lost, both to Real Madrid, a brilliant, resilient side, but they haven't gotten there again. So, and if you look at the difference, the teams that come back and win it, Liverpool, Milan, they kept their core together. and use the defeat as a diagnosis, of the team, of the capability, of the resources that they had, and then assign the thing specifically that was exposed at that final. And it's important to do that when it still hurts, when the hurts can fuel the motivation, the desire, the aspiration for the next season. And if you look at the other teams, the final fractured them, and they couldn't go again. So the numbers give us the answers, really, from that game. It's about being able to handle the press that PSG provided. And I think Mikel Arteta is going to be looking at that as an opportunity for Arsenal to get better next season. And you do it and then you come back. You do it and you come back. This game, is a game of margins. It really is. The Champions League is a game of margins. Typically I do my 3 ups, 3 downs. But I just thought this one, required a different, kind of reflection. So, where does that really leave us? Arsenal was second best, in that final. And the stats are not kind if you're looking at it. And I won't pretend that they are. But it took the best team in Europe to 120 minutes. And listen, PSG did not open up Arsenal, time and time again, in that game. And you took it to within a kick or 2 kicks of the penalty. And both things can be true at once. Arsenal have done fantastically well, to get here and still didn't get over the line. So if you step back, for a second, look at the season as a whole. Arsenal have won the Premier League, something that they haven't done in 22 years since the Invincible. And in the same season, they reached the Champions League final, something that they haven't done in 20 years. Listen, a domestic title and a European Cup final in one campaign is hard to do. It really is. And if you go back 2 or 3 seasons, to where this team was, you would have called that a fantasy, right? If you think about where Arsenal were, just after Arsene Wenger left, there is no chance of progressing in the Champions League to get to the final. And that's what this team has done. It's given everybody a renewed vision, a renewed hope, renewed aspiration. And I think that has to be commended. And I don't think the defeat from the Champions League final, should change any of that. They have to hold their heads high. They have to chin up. I was totally gutted, after the final, and I wanted to sleep on it before, I did my analysis and post-mortem, as it were, because this is not really a tactical, breakdown. It's more of a reflection of, what happened and, how, we're probably feeling as Arsenal fans and what's the important frame of mind to have going into next season and what Arsenal could potentially do. Champions of England, nobody can take that away. There's going to be a parade today, because I'm recording it on Sunday. I'm going for the parade as well. So, still be incredibly proud of those players, to see them, do something, that a lot of teams have tried and failed, before now. So, I think that, with those 2 roads, Arsenal, would definitely need to figure out the one that they want to take. And I dare say that they'll probably want to go down the Liverpool route, as well. Now, guys, I do want your honest take, about this. So put that into the comments. 2 questions, really. One, 25% possession, against PSG. Or was it the only way to survive? Could we have done something different? And then the second one is one signing. Is there a signing that you think that Arsenal could make that could actually change the way things are and can actually take Arsenal over the line, next season? Because the aspiration is to go next season. Just before I go, I do want to appreciate, everyone. Incredible, reaction to the Miles Lewis Skelly video. Do want to appreciate everyone that watched it, and some really great feedback, so I really appreciate, all of you. And thank you to all the new guys, who've joined the community, as well. Do check out the preview that I did before the final as well, and let's see, you know, what we call right and what we called wrong, right? And this is also always about, you know, just, you know, enjoying the game, you know, doing more, explaining things, you know, maybe providing a bit of insight that might not be immediately noticeable at the time of the game. So hit that subscribe button if you enjoyed this as well. And listen, the summer is going to be important, you know, for Arsenal. It really is. And we'll try and cover, you know, all of that, you know, within reason. It is important to take a little bit of a break. But, you know, I'll be looking at, you know, potential signings that Arsenal could make, reflecting on the season as well. I want to look at a couple of players, you know, across the season, what they've done, how they're important, you know, to Arsenal. So listen, it does hurt today, but I don't think it's the end, you know, of the story. So let's keep our chin up. Let's go and celebrate the Premier League title, because it is an amazing thing. And if anyone had handed us the Premier League title and said, you win the Premier League title and get to the final of the Champions League, I think, you know, a lot of us would have taken that. So let's keep our chin up. Come on, you Gunners.